Hi, welcome to this episode of John's Motorcycle Rescue and Review. Today I'm with another classic bike. This is Honda's 1992 Nighthawk 750. And the Nighthawk line debuted in the 80s, and this particular version of the Nighthawk was built from 1991 all the way up through 2003. So it had a very long production life, and there were very few changes in that time period. And this is really done in the style of the classic UJM. So it's got an upright handlebar, it's got more of the flat seat on it, has a big rounded gas tank, it's got an air-cooled inline 4-cylinder, 750 cc's, it's got the 4 carburetors, and very much like Honda's original CB750, it has a single disc brake up front. It also has a drum brake in the rear. It's chain drive, and it has the dual shocks in the rear as well. Wet weight on this bike was right around 500 pounds. The horsepower rating was right around 75 horsepower and around 47 foot-pounds of torque. So right around 50 foot-pounds of torque. And it gives it nice performance. It's a very smooth bike. And believe it or not, of all the bikes I've ridden, I have never ridden this model of Nighthawk 750. So I'm looking forward to doing that here in just a couple minutes. This bike is a beautiful bike, very, very well cared for. It has 20,000 miles on it. One of the nice features of the Nighthawk 750, it has hydraulic valve adjustment, so you don't have to go in and do valve clearance checks on this motor. And that's kind of unique, and there's only a few motorcycles that have that hydraulic adjustment. This was designed to be a great everyday transport, commuter bike, light duty touring bike, and you can even do some light sport riding as well in the formula of the classic UJMs. So what's it like to ride? Well, I'm going to gear up, I'll grab my helmet, I'll take the camera along, let's find out together. Let's ride.
Nice smooth power. I'm currently riding Honda's 1992 Nighthawk 750, and this is just a classic bike from the 90s and just a really cool machine. And I'm struck right away with how easy this bike is to ride. The clutch pull is easy, it's got good low end. The motor is very smooth, and then it's got a little bit of a narrow set bar, so it feels stable. It feels a little bit sporty, and it wants to kind of roll into corners. It doesn't really want to snap down into corners, but it kind of rolls from side to side. This particular bike has some modifications to it. It has the EBC upgraded brake rotor in the front. It also has 1-inch spacers in the front suspension to stiffen up the front suspension on it. The fork legs have been dropped a little bit in the triple tree. Very nice. Those of you who've watched this channel know that I'm a big fan of the UJM, and this bike just fits squarely in that category. Honda really designed this bike to be very budget friendly, and so if you look at some of the componentry, it does have what would be considered low rate parts here and there on it, but it actually functions very well. Surprisingly, this bike also has a 5-speed transmission. I was expecting it to have a 6-speed, but it is a 5-speed. Instrumentation is nice too. It does have a tach. It's got the big speedometer on it. I am surprised that it doesn't have a fuel gauge, or at least a low fuel warning light. Yeah, the power is really smooth. It comes on very nicely, very smoothly for many RPM. And as I said before, it's got some components on it like the drum brakes, the single disc brake up front, the dual shocks, the old standard shocks in the rear. And it would really kind of lead you to believe, looking at it on paper, that this is an unrefined kind of budget level bike. But the way it feels very refined. It feels like a great place to spend some time riding. It's got the old UJM character. It's a bike that's really going to do any type of riding well. And this would just be a nice bike to spend the day on. It'd be a nice bike to commute on. And it's got enough performance on tap that it is rewarding to drive it in a sporting fashion. What a beautiful day to be out riding a classic Honda. Very nice.
All right, what a lot of fun. What a privilege to get to ride and experience this classic Honda. It's hard for me to believe that this bike is actually an antique now. I remember when I was first getting into motorcycling, these were just coming out, and I remember seeing them new on the showroom floor. So it's just, you know, I've been around, I guess, for a little while as well. Kind of my thoughts on this bike: it's very smooth, it's very refined. Pretty much everything about it is low effort. It handles very easily, it drives easily. It's a very friendly and forgiving motorcycle to ride. And if you're looking for a bike that's a good daily driver, or a bike that would be a good kind of a vintage bike or a classic bike that you don't have to pay the ultimate cost of like poor suspension and everything on the really older bikes, you know, from the 70s. These things are a really good choice. It would be a good first classic bike if you wanted to get into the classic bikes. And I just want to say thank you to Pete for letting me ride this bike. This is his, and it's just a beautiful bike, and it's a real treat and an honor to be able to get to ride these classic machines. Very cool. I love the fact that he got this bike and he did kind of what I do. He got it and then he did some modifications to it to make it handle better, to improve the braking on it, and to really rescue it, to redo the carbs, and to bring it back into really nice shape. And this is just a gorgeous example. So thanks again, Pete. Well, I'd love to know what you guys think. If any of you have owned the Nighthawk 750 before or have ridden one, you know, please feel free to share in the comment section below. I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, enjoy the ride.